Sometimes dead is better. Hit it! What's going on, friends? Logan Myers here for Cinephellas.com. Really excited to talk about the next movie, one of the most anticipated films of 2019. Another Stephen King adaptation from the novel to the big screen. I'm talking about the brand new film, Pet Sematary. The film is directed by Kevin Kölsch and Dennis Widmyer, the directors of Starry Eyes, a film I have not seen, but I've been seeing the buzz about it on a lot of Facebook horror movie groups. The setup of the film, we have the Creed family, Louis Creed, and his family move up from Boston to rural Maine, the small town in Maine, in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by woods. Very beautiful, very desolate, not really much around there except one neighbor. And they move there, their young kids, Gage and Ellie, a little girl, a little boy, you know, are playing around, checking out the house. It's really old, it's like an old farmhouse. You see the young kids and the Creed family go into this house, and right when they show up to the house, you see the fucking semi on the road by their house, like zooming past, going like 85 miles per hour. And it really, like early on in the film, made me jump. I forgot about that part. And they're really starting to set up this atmosphere of the film and this town of Maine and their house and what lies behind the house. So in the film, they discover this ancient burial ground not too far from their house, the Pet Sematary, spelled incorrectly, and it really builds this eerie atmosphere. We have Rachel and her young daughter Ellie that find out about the Pet Sematary. They're like unpacking their boxes. They just moved in. And they hear like these drums and stuff like that. It's a bunch of kids with like weird, creepy animal masks on, and they're like a sort of parade, and they're kind of walking towards the Pet Sematary to bury, you know, their dead animal. And that's how they discover this place. And talking to his young daughter Ellie about it, and him struggling, you know, with death and talking about death. Not really believing in God and religion and things like that, and you know, trying to explain to a young kid about what happens to you after you die, and if you go to a higher place like heaven, or what happens exactly. And you see that Louis is really struggling early on in the film. Louis comes across a lot of situations of life or death as a doctor, and in the film, you know, he's working at this college, which is kind of cool. He has this new job. He's like a 9-to-5, I guess. One of the reasons they moved up there, so he could spend more time with the family and the kids. But I will say, you know, the first act and the beginning of the second act are really slow. There's a lot of explanation, a lot of exposition. There's a lot of storytelling and, you know, trying to give this backstory of the Pet Sematary and introducing Judd Crandall's character, John Lithgow, which is pretty good in this film. He's like their neighbor that lives across the way. You know, Fred Gwynne playing this character in 1989 film, Pet Sematary. You know, definitely one of the better parts of that film. I just recently revisited, you know, Pet Sematary. I did that unboxing video for you guys, the movie from 1989. And I will say the acting is not very good, movie at all. It doesn't hold up over the years, that's for sure. A lot of cheesiness to it. But there's a lot of terrifying parts about that movie, the original film. And I'll still hold it dear to my heart just watching it as a kid and terrifying me, and it scared me for life. But you know, John Lithgow, I love this actor. He's been in so many great films and TV shows. I still love him in Footloose as the pastor, and I think he did a decent job with the character and the script they gave him. I wasn't blown away by his performance, but he did a pretty good job with it. From the second act to the end of the movie, I meant things get pretty good. There's a lot of jump scares in this movie. The introduction of the infamous Zelda, Rachel's sister, that was, you know, up in the attic, and you know, Rachel. And Rachel's played by Seimetz, if that's how you pronounce her name. She was probably one of the better performances of the film. You can see she's struggling with a lot of things in the present and the past. She's getting a lot of flashbacks of her sister, Zelda. And the most heart-wrenching, heartbreaking part of the film, as we all know, if you guys read the book or saw the first movie, of the semi on the road hitting, you know, one of the kids. If you saw one of the trailers for Pet Sematary, it was spoiled for you. Another great aspect of this film is Church, or Winston Churchill, the cat. You know, the cat is hit on the road and killed by one of the semis, and it's Ellie's cat. You know, and Louis trying to be a good dad and figuring out what to do. You know, Judd suggests going up to this place to show him what can be done to revive this dead cat and bring it back. And this sets up the really scary part of the film, is seeing Judd and Louis go up to this place, a Pet Sematary, in the woods, and just the way that it was filmed, the cinematography, you know, the set design of this movie is just utterly eerie. I felt like I was in the woods with Judd and Lewis and what they're coming across, the sounds they're hearing. And there's like this one part of the movie, they're in the woods and it sounds like a fucking big roar. It sounds like a werewolf out there. And Judd's like, oh, that's just a loon. That's a crazy loon. I'm like, yeah, right. It's a fucking werewolf. But you feel for these characters when they're walking out there, and you can see how terrified they are. Seeing Lewis questioning Judd is like, what are we doing out here? What's the whole purpose of this climbing, going through the woods at night, and not knowing if you're going to survive or get out of there, until he uncovers what this place can really do, the powers around this place that can bring the dead back to life, come back as zombies essentially. And with Lewis bringing the cat up there and seeing Church come back immediately, and you can see that the cat is not the same cat it used to be. It's more evil now. It's like hissing at them and walking around, and just a different cat. And Ellie realizes that that's not her cat anymore. It's something completely different, something evil. And sets up like sometimes dead is better, as they say in the movie, the famous quote from the movie, because when they bring these species or humans or anybody back to life, they're not the same, and there's something more evil about them. And I will say the third act of the film is probably the best part of the movie. It was a little slow to get it going, too much storytelling, too much backstories, too much exposition, the first two acts. But the third act really rejuvenates that all, and it brings the terror to a horror film. There's a really, really great twist in this movie, and the ending I thought was really awesome, how they set that up and just ended it. And didn't really expect that. And I really love the kid that played Gage. He looked a lot like Miko Hughes in the first film. Really great casting. But overall, I had a good time with the new Pet Sematary. There were some good aspects about it. There were some bad ones too. There's some issues I had with the movie. One being, Louis Creed. He's the main character of the movie, and you just don't care about him. Just with the script, it seems like just the story they're trying to tell. He's just there. He's the focal point, but he has no backstory, and you just don't really care about the character. And I love Jason Clarke. I'm not saying he's a bad actor. I think it was just more the writing of his character. But I did love the rest of his family. I love the way that Rachel was written, the actress that played Rachel. I love the young boy and the young girl in this movie, playing Gage and Ellie. They were really convincing, really great child actors. And I also had a good time with John Lithgow's character playing Judd Crandall. I don't think he was as good as Fred Gwynne in any way, shape, or form, because Fred Gwynne was a legend. That was one of his best performances. But I think Lithgow did a great job with what he was given. And one of the things that really bothered me about this movie, Judd Crandall being in Maine pretty much his whole life, he doesn't have an East Coast accent. Boston Harbor. I'm like, he just, yeah, I've lived in Maine my whole life. Like, really? You don't have some sort of little East Coast accent, like Fred Gwynne had? Even the Creed family, none of them have accents. They're from Boston. And I thought the directing was pretty solid in this movie. The camera work, cinematography, set design, the sound, the music, it really built this eerie atmosphere up in Maine, a place I would never want to visit. Overall, there wasn't a lot of horror. There wasn't a lot of parts that were super scary about it. Just more or less of understanding this family, what this place is, and what happens to the dead when they're brought back to life. Almost forgot, towards the end of the movie, there's a very cool Stephen King Easter egg that may have to do with it. So definitely keep your eyes out for that. I thought that was really cool how they threw that into the movie. So overall, I'm going to give Pet Sematary a 3 out of 5 cat hair pieces. Meow! If you guys did see the new Pet Sematary, what did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? What's your favorite book or movie in the Stephen King universe? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit subscribe. This is Logan Meyer signing out from Pet Sematary. Until the next video review. Cheers!